It's a low, endless groan that rolls through the valley like some giant animal turning in its sleep, bones grinding under miles of blue ice. The sound crawls up through your boots, through your legs, and settles somewhere behind your ribs where instinct keeps all the important warnings. You tell yourself it's just shifting ice. You know better. The wind claws at your parka, flinging sharp grains of snow against your cheeks. The sky above is a flat, unbroken sheet of white, horizon dissolved, depth and distance erased. There's only the ice beneath you, the weight of your pack on your shoulders, and the animal standing 10 meters away, watching you. The wolf. It shouldn't be here. You know the range of wolves in this region. You memorize the studies, the migration patterns, the satellite tracking data. You came here to document the way the landslide opened a new ice face, exposed layers that hadn't seen light in centuries. You did not come here expecting yellow eyes to fix on you through blowing snow. Its coat is not pure white. That's the first thing that bothers you. Up close, through the lens of your camera, you can see faint shadows of gray along its flanks, a line of darker fur tracing the spine like a drawn path. The animal is lean, not starving but not comfortable either, legs braced on the slick surface as if it spent its whole life standing on uncertainty. You lower the camera, just a little. The wolf does not run. The glacier groans again. You feel it this time as a shiver in the air, a deep vibration moving under the ice. A spiderweb of hairline cracks glints faintly at your feet, like frozen lightning threads trapped just under the surface. They weren't there when you step forward. You take a slow breath. Cold air knifes through your nostrils, burns your throat, and settles heavy in your chest. You should go back! You don't! The wolf turns its head slightly, not away from you, but toward the yawning break in the glacier's side, the raw wound left by the landslide. From here, the ice wall looks like a cathedral that has been torn open, ribs of blue and white and trapped stone exposed to the sky. The wolf takes one careful step toward it, then another. You hear your own voice, muffled by your scarf, barely louder than the wind. What are you doing? The animal pauses, glances back at you. The look is not human. You know you're not supposed to call it that, not allowed to project intention where there's only instinct, pattern recognition, environmental cues. You spent your career telling other people to stop doing that, but the way those yellow eyes hold yours feels like a question. Or an invitation. You feel yourself move before you decide to. One step, boot crunching on crusted snow. Another, the edges of the cracks glimmering faintly beneath the surface as you shift your weight. Your gloved hand tightens around the camera grip, knuckles pressing against cold plastic. Okay, you mutter. Okay. Show me then. You follow the wolf. The wind shifts as you approach the ice wall. It whistles down through unseen crevices, threads of air-carrying smells that don't belong. Up here, damp stone, old water, the faint metallic tang of something long trapped. The closer you get, the clearer you see the new opening the landslide created. It isn't just a scar, it's a doorway. A vertical gash has split the ice, floor to ceiling, opening into darkness. From where you stand, it looks like a throat leading down into something deep and secret. Fractured light glows blue along the jagged edges, refracted through compressed centuries. The wolf stands at the threshold. It looks back at you again. You raise the camera automatically, framing the animal against the glowing blue. It's a perfect shot composition, light, subject. The kind of image that gets picked up by magazines, that ends up on covers, that people pin to their walls and call wildness. You press the shutter. The click echoes too loudly in the silence. You lower the camera. The wolf is gone. You blink, heart jamming against your ribs. Your brain scrambles for rational explanations. Angle shift, light distortion, the animal stepping just out of frame. You step forward, boots sliding slightly on the smooth ice. Hey! Your voice bounces off the ice wall and comes back thinner. You lean cautiously toward the opening. The light dies quickly inside, swallowed into a blue-black corridor. You can't see the bottom, can't see the end. You can, however, see the tracks. A neat line of paw prints leading down into the darkness, pressed into frost that seems too fine, too untouched, as if no wind has ever reached it. Your stomach gives a slow, deliberate twist. You have no reason to go in. You have every reason to go in. Your radio is a weight on your shoulder. Your rope is coiled neatly at your hip. The avalanche beacon under your jacket blinks a green pulse against your chest like a small mechanical heart. You have training, protocols, the voice of your mentor in your head listing every reason this is a bad idea. The wolf's prints disappear into shadow. You take out your headlamp. The elastic strap snaps against your hat as you pull it on. You thumb the switch, and a cone of white light stabs into the opening. The ice reflects it back in 100 directions, scattering tiny suns across frozen walls. The glacier's voice deepens, a long, distant crack that could be miles away. Or directly beneath you. You clip the rope to your harness. You should call base, log your position, announce your descent. Instead, you flick the radio on, listen to the hiss of static for half a second, then turn it off again. You don't know why you do that. Later, you'll tell yourself it was the wind. You step into the glacier. The temperature drops like a curtain falling. Outside cold was sharp, biting. Inside cold is different, thick, smothering, like stepping into something that has never known sunlight. Your breath appears in front of you in heavy bursts, quickly snatched away into the darkness. Your boots crunch on frost, then slip slightly as you hit smoother ice. The narrow corridor tilts downward faster than you expect. You reach out with your free hand, palm meeting the wall. It's slick but not perfectly smooth. Your glove drags over trapped air bubbles, tiny stones, the imprisoned ghosts of snowfalls that fell before you were born. Before your parents were born, before the life you remember ever existed. Your headlamp beam catches on something ahead movement, a flash of pale. You stop. The wolf stands farther down the tunnel, half turned toward you. The light paints silver along its side, catching in its eyes. For a second, they shine the same cold blue as the ice. You swallow, tongue thick, throat uncooperative. "Why me?" you whisper, the question spilling out before you can dress it in logic. Your voice doesn't echo this time. It's swallowed. You take another step. The tunnel widens slightly, the floor leveling out. Ice curves above you, forming an arch that would be beautiful if it didn't feel so much like the inside of a rib cage. Your lamp picks out layers in the walls, bands of white and blue, trapped sediment, the faint outlines of bubbles that look oddly like fingerprints. You blink. They're just patterns, just ice. The wolf's tail flicks once, impatient. You keep walking. The deeper you go, the more the outside world feels like something you imagined. The wind becomes a memory. The sky doesn't exist. There is only the narrow beam of your light, the soft whisper of your own breathing, and the steady line of paw prints leading you forward. You can't tell how long you've been walking when you notice it. The smell. At first, it's barely there, a fragile thread in the air you almost ignore. Then it sharpens, resolves into something you know far too well for this place. Diesel. Old diesel. You stop so abruptly your rope swings against your legs. Your mind fractures along old fault lines, field assignments, border crossings, nights spent in remote outposts with generators coughing exhaust into the sky. But this isn't that. This is ice. You lift your head, frown deepening beneath your scarf. The smell is impossible here. There's no machinery, no vehicles, no oil. The last engine you saw was the helicopter that dropped you off miles away, yet your nose insists. You take a cautious breath through your mouth, then your nose again just to be sure. Diesel. And something else. Metal, maybe. Rust. The faint, sour note of old plastic baked by sun and then forgotten. You take another step, the rope scratching softly over the ice behind you. Your lamp skims across the wall and catches on a shape that does not belong. At first, you think it's a trick of refraction. Some jut of rock, some trapped debris from the landslide. You angle the beam more carefully, squinting. There. Rectangular. Too straight to be natural. You move closer, heart beginning to hammer in that slow, heavy way that precedes either panic or revelation. The ice in front of you is clearer here, smoothed by some ancient pressure. Embedded within it, half swallowed by blue, is a corner of something man-made. Peeling paint, a strip of metal, a hinge, a door. No, not just a door. Your breath slows without your permission. The smell of diesel sharpens further, tangled with another scent that sends a shiver along your spine. Sun-warmed canvas. The ghost of a memory stirs, restless. You know this smell. You know this door. But that's impossible. The wolf stands beside it now, so close its fur almost brushes the ice. Its gaze flickers between the frozen object and you, as if checking whether you've put the pieces together yet. You haven't. Not fully. Not consciously. Your gloved hand rises, fingers splayed, reaching toward the wall. The ice is perfectly clear here, like thick glass. As your light steadies, more details emerge beyond it. Straps, buckles, a faded logo you haven't seen in decades. A logo you once traced with small, clumsy fingers. A logo that sat at the foot of your childhood bed. Your chest tightens so abruptly it feels like something has reached in and squeezed your lungs. There, encased in ice in the heart of the glacier, is a backpack. Not just any backpack, your backpack. You recognize the tear in the side pocket, the uneven stitching where someone tried to fix it in a hurry. You recognize the dangling keychain, a tiny plastic wolf faded, one ear missing, the exact keychain you lost the day your mind slams a door on the rest. You stare at the impossible relic of your own past, locked in ice hundreds of meters deep, miles from where you grew up, in a country you had never even visited as a child. Your head swims. You take an unsteady step backward. The glacier groans again, louder. The floor shifts under you. Hairline cracks race away from your boots, glowing faintly as stress jolts through the frozen structure. Your arms fly out to the sides for balance, camera swinging on its strap, headlamp jerking. The beam slices across the ice beneath your feet. For a heartbeat, you see it, a network of fractures all converging in one place, directly below you. The sound is like a gunshot muffled by snow as the ice gives way. You drop. Your stomach lurches into your throat. Your hand flails, catching nothing but freezing air. Your light whirls violently, smearing the world into streaks of blue and black. Above you, for the briefest flicker of a second, you see the wolf. It stands at the edge of the opening, framed in your wildly swinging beam, looking down at you as you fall. Its eyes are not afraid. They look almost relieved. Then the darkness swallows everything. You don't feel the impact. You feel the memory, a small hand letting go of another's, the roar of an engine, the weight of a promise you never kept. The past rushes up to meet you faster than the ice. You land wrong, but you land. Something slams into your side, knocks the air out of you, flips the world into a blur of white and black and blue, and then everything stops with a bone-deep jolt that rattles your teeth. For a stretched, directionless moment, there is no up or down. There is only pressure, weight against your chest, ice biting through your clothes. A roaring in your ears that might be the glacier or might be your own blood. You suck in air. It doesn't work. You try again, jaw unhinging, lungs clawing for something they can't quite remember how to do. The first breath comes in ragged pieces, each fragment feeling like it scrapes the inside of your ribs. You're not dead. The thought arrives very calmly, like someone placing a file on a desk. You test your fingers. They respond with stiff, complaining twitches. Your legs answer when you tell them to move. Your shoulder flares hot and then settles into a deep, resentful throb. You're wedged in a pocket of snow and broken ice, half buried, half exposed. Above you, a jagged oval of darkness marks the hole you punched through the glacier's floor. Beyond it, you can see nothing but faint, ghostly light and a drifting haze of powder. The wolf is gone. You lie still for a second longer, listening. Drips. You hear them first, slow, steady, somewhere nearby. Water falling from a height onto stone or ice. The sound is absurdly gentle compared to the violence of your fall. Then you hear something else, your rope sliding. Your hand shoots to your harness, fingers closing around the line. It's still clipped in, still running up into the darkness. You tug cautiously. It answers with resistance, then stops, caught on something above. You're not dangling in midair. That's something. You wrench your other arm free of the snow, pushing it aside in awkward strokes until you can sit up. Cold rushes into the places your body was warming. An immediate, intimate invasion. Your headlamp is still on. The beam cuts a narrow corridor through the gloom, illuminating fractured ice around you in fractured pieces. The cone of light catches on suspended crystals, on broken plates of ice jutting from the walls at odd angles, on dust-fine snow still settling from your fall. You glance down. Your camera dangles beside you, housing cracked but intact, lens hood bent. You touch it with the kind of instinctive tenderness most people reserve for living things. "You're okay," you murmur, voice hoarse. "You're okay, I'm okay." The words fog out of your mouth and vanish. You turn the light upward. The opening you fell through isn't as far as it felt. 5 meters, maybe 6. The rope disappears through it, sawing gently against the edge. There is no sign of the wolf, just the ragged teeth of ice and darkness beyond. You could climb back up. That's your first rational thought. You could brace your boots, use your ascenders, reverse the path your panic carved on the way down, call base, log an accident, explain nothing. You look down again. Your headlamp beam slides away from the hole above and crawls across the chamber you've landed in. The space is bigger than you realized. The fall shoved you into one corner of a larger cavity, its ceiling arching overhead like the inside of a frozen lung. The walls are layered with ice so clear it's almost invisible in places, revealing skin-thin veins of rock and sediment behind. The floor slopes gently away, disappearing into a lower tunnel on the far side. That's not what freezes you, it's the color. Along one wall, the ice glows with a faint, unnatural tint, not the usual blues and whites, not the muted grays of stone. Something else, faded red, muted yellow, a smear of green that looks almost exactly like paint. You push yourself to your knees, wincing as the movement pulls at your ribs. Snow cascades from your clothes. Your right hand complains when you put weight on it, a sharp, localized flare along the wrist, but it holds. You stand, boots crunching softly. The smell of diesel is stronger down here, and another smell rides on top of it now. Plastic, old fabric, the faint sour memory of sweat that never fully washed out. You know this combination. You take a halting step toward the painted wall. Your light firms into a steadier beam as your breathing evens out. As the angle changes, the colors sharpen and resolve into shapes, into lines, into letters. Not paint, stickers. Sun-faded, scuffed, half-peeled stickers clinging to the side of something half buried in the ice. You stop a meter away. The object is lodged at an angle, one corner jutting from the glacier's grip like a shipwreck from sand. You can see enough to know what it is before your mind is ready to say the word. Metal frame, curved roof, rusted hinge, the side panel of a trailer. Your throat works around nothing. You know this shape. You know it in muscle memory, in the way your shoulders want to hunch instinctively, the way your knees itch with the urge to climb. You know it from afternoons spent clambering up and down a ladder bolted to the back, from long drives on narrow roads with your forehead pressed to glass. Your family had one, not this one. That's impossible. That's impossible. This is the wrong country, the wrong continent, the wrong life. But your hand is already reaching out. The ice here is thinner, frost more than solid. Your glove presses through a delicate crust and comes to rest on chilled metal. Your light picks out cracked decals, a sun with a smiling face, a mountain outline, the ghostly trace of a brand name. Half of it is hidden, swallowed by ice. The visible letters stab at something inside your skull. Camp! You pull your hand back as if you've been burned. The fall didn't knock the memories loose. This does. Not all of them, not yet. Just fragments. A parking lot at dusk, sky turning the same color as the ice held your backpack. Your father's hands on the wheel. The hum of an engine. Your own voice saying, "Can we go higher?" "I want to see more snow." Then nothing. You stagger back a step, shoulder catching the wall. Your headlamp jerks with the movement, smearing the chamber in skittering light. You could call this a coincidence. You could build an explanation, a similar model of trailer, a similar logo, a series of improbable but technically possible overlaps. You could. You don't. Because of the keychain. You saw it just before the ice broke. Your own plastic wolf, locked into that frozen backpack like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence you refuse to read. You swallow slowly. The action feels mechanical. Your gaze drifts toward the lower tunnel. The floor falls away there into a slope of packed snow and distorted ice. The opening is taller than you are, wide enough to walk through without ducking. The walls gleam faintly with reflected light from your lamp, hinting at space beyond. You're not in a random cavity. You've dropped into a passage running along the glacier's belly, a hidden corridor that's been sealed for decades, centuries maybe. Yet here inside it are pieces of your past. Something in you that stayed safe by not asking questions starts to wake up. You know what the correct decision is. Climb out, report everything, let other people with equipment and teams and protocols handle whatever is down here. You should not walk into that tunnel alone. A soft sound pulls your attention back toward the opening above. You tilt your head, nothing at first. Just the faint hiss of distant wind, muted by meters of ice. Then, very softly, the almost inaudible scrape of claws on frozen surface. Your chest muscles brace without your permission. You raise the beam. A head appears at the lip of the hole. Yellow eyes look down at you. The wolf. Snow dusts its fur now, clinging to its back and shoulders. It stands right at the edge without slipping, weight balanced like it was born into this geometry. In the thin halo of your lamp, its breath rolls out in slow, controlled plumes. You exhale a word you don't plan. Why? It doesn't flick an ear, doesn't shift its weight. It simply watches you. Then, with an ease that makes your stomach lurch, it steps away from the edge and vanishes from your sight. You wait, suddenly tense. If it leaves, if it disappears completely, maybe you can tell yourself this is just an animal behaving like an animal. Instead, a shadow moves at the far side of the chamber. You spin, lamp beam slicing across the ice. The wolf stands at the mouth of the lower tunnel now, as if it has always been there. No sound of a jump, no shower of snow, just absence, then presence. Your rational brain scrambles for the path it must have taken, some narrow ledge, some unseen ramp. Your eyes find nothing but sheer ice and slopes too steep for your own confidence, let alone a silent crossing. The animal looks at you, then it turns, tail swaying once, and walks into the tunnel. Your pulse slams a heavy rhythm against the inside of your neck. This is absurd. You have no reason to trust this creature. You have no proof it's anything more than coincidence, and your own fractured memory patterns seeking in the cold. You glance back up at the rope. Past it, vague light from the world you know. You could still leave. Leave the backpack locked in ice. Leave the trailer panel with its half-visible letters. Leave the smell of diesel and canvas and a childhood road you never truly followed to its end. Stay on the surface. Take your pictures. File your story. Let whatever is buried here stay buried. You look back at the tunnel. Darkness waits there, thick as water. Your lamp pierces only a short distance before being swallowed. Somewhere beyond its edge, you hear the faint shift of paws on ice. You realize your hands are clenched. If you go forward, there is no halfway. If you find out why a piece of your childhood is lying in the guts of this glacier, you cannot put that knowledge away again. You think of the years you don't talk about, The blank space in your family's photo albums, the way your mother always changed the subject whenever winter trips came up, the way your own mind has always blurred everything before a certain point into a single, safe, featureless silence. The silence ends here. You draw a breath that feels too big, too sharp. Of course, you whisper. Of course you'd be down here. You're not sure whether you're talking to the wolf, the glacier, or the version of yourself that decided to come on this assignment in the first place. You move to the rope. Your fingers fumble with the carabiner before finding a rhythm. You unclip yourself from the line, leaving it to dangle uselessly behind you. The small, bright blink of your beacon under your jacket keeps pulsing, sending its antiseptic signal to no one in particular. You're not tethered anymore. You stand for a heartbeat under the torn hole in the ice, feeling the weight of the decision settle onto your shoulders like another pack. Then, you turn away from the light. The first step toward the tunnel is the hardest. Your body knows what it means, even if your mind keeps pretending you're just checking things out, just taking a quick look, just gathering a bit more data before climbing back up. Your body knows better. Your boots slide slightly on the sloping floor. You plant them more carefully, adjusting your balance. The air grows thicker as you approach the mouth, cold getting into places it hadn't reached yet. Fingertips, toes, the back of your neck. You reach the threshold. The tunnel breathes out at you, a gust of air that smells of ancient water and trap time. Underneath those is the stubborn, unreal whisper of diesel and canvas and something citrus that tugs at a memory you can almost taste. You lift your lamp. The beam carves a path ahead. The wolf is waiting just inside, seated on its haunches, eyes reflecting your light back in two steady, otherworldly coins. It doesn't move as you step closer, doesn't growl, doesn't bare its teeth. It just stands when you're near enough to touch its fur. You don't. It turns and walks deeper into the dark. You follow. With each step, the world you know falls a little farther behind. The rope, the hole, the sky, all of it narrows to a shrinking idea somewhere at your back. In front of you, the tunnel curves gently, impossible to see where it leads. The ice shifts color as you move, blues deepening into indigo, then fading to ghostly white where old air pockets cluster in layers. Shadows hide within those pockets, shapes that look almost like faces if you let your eyes linger too long. You keep them moving. At one point, your lamp skims over another shape in the wall, a twisted piece of metal, a torn strip of cloth locked in frost, the blurred suggestion of printed letters beneath. Your gut flinches. You don't stop. Not yet. The wolf never looks back, but its pace is slow enough that you're never more than a few meters behind. Its claws make soft, deliberate sounds, like punctuation marks on the cold. You have passed the place where you could claim you aren't committed. If you wanted to retreat now, you'd have to admit you're running. You keep going. The tunnel slopes down once more, and you feel your center of gravity tilt with it, as if the glacier is guiding you along a track it carved for you long before you arrived. Somewhere ahead, the sound of dripping grows louder. It mixes with something new, a faint, hollow clink. Metal against metal. Your heart changes rhythm. You lick lips gone dry from the cold, tasting fabric and frost. "Who's there?" you call, the words leaving your mouth before you can argue with them. Your voice travels down the tunnel, thinner than you expect, and vanishes around the bend. No answer. Except for the wolf, which pauses as if acknowledging you've crossed the last line you were pretending didn't exist. It takes another step. "So do you!" The metallic sound comes again. Not loud, not urgent. Just a small, hollow ting that arrives in the silence like a dropped thought, repeats after a slow pause, and repeats again. You stop walking. The wolf doesn't. It moves a few more steps, then pauses too, as if it's testing whether you'll follow the sound or turn back. Your headlamp beam wavers, catching the curve of its spine, the quiet tension in its shoulders. Clink. The noise echoes faintly, bouncing along the tunnel. Now that you're listening for it, you can hear the rhythm: drip, breath, clink, drip, breath, clink. A kind of slow, indifferent heartbeat. You swallow. "Someone was here," you whisper. The tunnel answers with its own breath, a low sigh of shifting air. You move again. The slope steepens, forcing you to brace each step a little more carefully. Fine snow shifts under your boots, gliding over harder ice beneath. You keep one hand on the wall, fingers tracing bumps and grooves, the trapped bubbles and stones and tiny twists of debris that mark the glacier's long history. Every so often, your light picks out another fragment of the outside world locked in the ice, a twisted bolt, a strip of fabric, something that might once have been wood. Each one is wrong here, out of place in a way your mind catalogs and then files for later, too focused on the sound ahead to linger. Drip! Clink! The tunnel bends, a slow, graceful curve to the left. As you round it, the ceiling lifts, the walls pull back, and the darkness in front of you opens into a wider space. You step through the narrow throat of the passage and into a hidden chamber. It isn't big, maybe the size of a small room, but after the confining tunnel it feels vast. Your lamp beam sweeps across smooth ice, across a ceiling that dips and rises like frozen waves, across a floor dusted with fine snow that has never seen a footprint, except one, two, more. The wolf's tracks form a path leading to the center of the room. Your light follows them and finds the source of the sound. A metal mug hangs from a hook driven into the ice. It dangles from a loop of cord, swaying slightly with each drop of water that falls from the ceiling. When the droplet hits, the mug trembles, taps against the hook with that small, clear ting that drew you here. For a moment, it's the only thing you can look at, not because it's extraordinary, but because it's so painfully ordinary. A simple, dented mug, the kind you throw into a backpack without thinking, a modest, nameless piece of someone's day. Down here, it feels like a message. You step closer, beam tightening on the cup. It's coated in a rime of frost, rim crusted with ice where droplets have frozen instead of falling. The handle is worn, thumb smooth on one side. You've seen that pattern before. In your hands. The thought arrives uninvited, clears its throat, waits. You pull your gaze away forcibly, letting the light drift to the left. Something else is there. A folding chair sits embedded in the ice, legs half swallowed, seat tilted. It faces the center of the room as if someone sat here once, listening to the glacier's voice the way you might listen to rain. Beside it, on a low mound of snow and stone, rests a lantern. The old kind, metal and glass, filaments dark, tank-long empty. Your heart changes pace. You swing the beam farther. A coil of rope, an empty thermos, cap missing. The brittle husk of a notebook, pages glued together by time and water, cover warped but still clinging to a single surviving sticker on the front. You step toward it, boots crunching in the layered snow. The wolf stands near the far wall now, at ease but alert, eyes tracking your movements without impatience. It could explore, sniff, paw at the objects. It doesn't! It leaves them to you, as if this place doesn't belong to it, as if it belongs to you. You crouch by the notebook, knees popping in protest. Your glove brushes away a thin frosting of ice from the cover. A shape emerges, not a brand, not a logo, a crude drawing done in thick marker, the outline of a mountain and, beside it, something vaguely canine. There's a clumsy attempt at shading. A sun with too many rays. A name scrawled underneath in wavering letters. Your name. Smaller. Younger. The way your hand made it when you were still learning what letters could do. Ice presses against your shins, seeping through fabric, but you don't move. You stare at the childish signature until the lines start to blur. The notebook isn't identical to any you remember, but the sticker on the corner is. A round, peeling circle with the same smiling sun as the trailer panel above, the same brand you traced on rainy days when there was nothing better to do. You squeeze your eyes shut. The chamber disappears. For a second, you're somewhere else entirely. The air is warmer, not by much, but enough to soften the edges of your breath. The world rocks gently under your feet, the rhythm of a vehicle moving along a rough road. Fabric walls creak, a fork rattles in a drawer. Someone hums off key, a tune you can't quite place. Draw something, a voice says, deep, amused. You've got the whole world on those pages. Use it. You look down, small hands, marker-stained fingers, notebook open on your knees, the page is blank. The idea of whole world is too big, too vague. You decide on a mountain, you decide on a wolf. You've never seen one, not really, but you've seen pictures. You think they're scary? The voice asks. You shrug. I think they're alone, you say. The memory glitches, the sound of an engine swells. Somewhere overhead, ice creaks like a distant gunshot. You jolt back into the present, eyes snapping open. Cold crashes over you again. The chamber returns. The notebook stares up at you with your own handwriting from a life you've never consciously replayed. Your fingers ache inside your gloves. Slowly, you reach out and try to open it. The cover resists at first, pages frozen together. Then, with a brittle crackle, the front peels back a fraction. A corner paperless. Underneath, in the narrow gap, you glimpse color-more marker lines, flashes of blue and gray. Not words. Drawings. Of mountains. Of wolves. Of a trailer with a curved roof and a small stick figure standing beside it, arms spread wide like they're trying to hug the horizon. You stop pulling before the paper tears completely. It doesn't matter what the rest shows. You've seen enough. Your stomach feels hollow in a way that has nothing to do with hunger. You set the notebook down with more care than it probably deserves after all these years, and straighten slowly. Your knees crack again. Your head feels slightly too light. The wolf watches you the way you'd watch someone trying to remember the last part of a story they once told themselves to fall asleep. What happened here, you ask? The animal's ears twitch. You follow its gaze as it shifts toward the far wall. Your lamp swings. At first, you think you're just looking at another expanse of ice. Then your eyes adjust to the subtler shapes within it. The wall isn't smooth here, it bulges slightly, like something pressed up against it from the other side. You walk closer. Just before your glove touches the surface, you see it. Metal framework beneath the ice, curved at the top, straight at the sides. A corner of a window. The faint ghost of curtains behind. Not just a panel this time, an entire side of a trailer buried sideways in the glacier, as if the world tipped and swallowed it. You step back to take it in, the lamp beam widening. The structure extends beyond your light's reach, but you can see enough. The wheel well, the edge of a door, faded paint that once promised adventure routes and scenic getaways. Along the bottom, half obscured, are more letters. Campridge, the brand your father wouldn't shut up about for weeks before he finally found one secondhand, the one he called Home on Wheels, like it was the punchline to a private joke. The knock in your chest this time is worse than any impact. Your mouth moves around an old phrase, one so deeply buried you almost don't recognize it. "We're going higher this time." You hear his voice overlap with yours, an echo from somewhere behind your ears. "We'll go right up to the snow, kiddo." You'll see. You didn't see. Not all of it. Not the way it ended. You stare at the frozen trailer, throat thick, eyes burning in a way the cold can't explain. Your lamp beam skims over the door, over the window, over something else. Something small stuck crookedly near the handle. A piece of paper. No, not paper. Something thicker. Laminate. The edges are trapped in ice, but the surface lies close enough to the glassy exterior that you can make out its design. A photograph. You step so close your breath fogs the wall. The ice distorts it, but the shapes are clear enough. A blurred background of mountains. The side of the trailer, bright and new. Two figures standing in front of it, one taller, one shorter. The taller one holds up a peace sign, grin splitting his face. The shorter one is laughing, mouth open, head tipped back. Your light catches on the shorter one's cheek, on the reflection in their eyes. You don't need clarity to know who you're looking at. Your stomach twists so sharply your knees nearly buckle. You are staring at a photograph of yourself as a child buried inside a glacier you had never set foot on. You press your palm flat against the ice instinctively, as if you could reach through, as if warmth and willpower could melt decades in a heartbeat. The ice gives you nothing back. Behind the thin, clear barrier, the two figures remain forever captured in that moment. Happy, oblivious, just before whatever happened next. Behind you, claws click softly on frozen ground. You turn your head. The wolf is closer now, only a meter away. You didn't hear it move, but there it is, fur dusted with ice crystals, breath slow and steady. Its gaze flicks from you to the buried trailer, then back again. You realize your palm is still pressed against the wall. Slowly, you take it away. When your hand falls, the headlamp beam drops too, slipping lower along the ice. It snags on another shape you hadn't noticed, half hidden beneath the trailer's edge. A wheel! No, not a wheel! A tire! The tire! You know it by the pattern of the tread, by the uneven wear along one side. Your father complained about it the night before you left on that final trip, promising he'd replace it when you got back. You never had that conversation again. Your body remembers more than your mind. The smell of diesel and citrus, the way snow looked coming down in the beam of the headlights. The sound of a road crumbling under weight it was never meant to carry. You squeeze your eyes shut for a second, then force them open. You came here for ice samples, for photographs, for a clean scientific story about geological time and climate and the marks humans leave on landscapes. Instead, the landscape is holding a piece of your life hostage. You look at the wolf. "You brought me here," you say, voice low, roughened by more than the cold. "Why now?" It doesn't answer, of course, but it does something you don't expect. It steps past you, places one paw against the ice wall, just below the photograph. Nails scrape lightly, leaving faint tracks in the frost. Then it takes them away and turns its head, as if pointing instead of speaking. You follow its gaze. There's another tunnel on the far side of the chamber, smaller than the one you came through, half concealed by a fold in the ice. From here, it looks barely wide enough for you to fit through comfortably. For the wolf, it's no challenge at all. It walks toward it now, pausing only once to glance back, checking whether you're watching. You are. Your legs feel strangely heavy as you cross the chamber. Each step takes more effort than it should, like the air has thickened around you. The mud taps its lazy rhythm behind you. Drip, ting, calling to a life where this place didn't exist. You stop at the entrance of the narrow passage. The air coming out of it is colder, if that's possible. There's a stillness there that feels different from the rest of the glacier, a kind of waiting silence. The wolf slips inside without hesitation. Your shoulders brush the ice as you follow. Your pack scrapes. Frost dusts your hat. You have to turn a little sideways to avoid snagging your gear on protrusions. For a few meters, there's nothing but tight walls and your own breathing. Then the passage widens just enough for you to straighten. You raise your lamp. The light falls on something directly ahead. Not ice, not rock, fabric. A strip of it hanging limp from the wall, frozen halfway between motion and stillness. It trails down to a heap on the floor, a collapsed shape, indistinct under a layer of frost. Your lungs forget what they were doing. The wolf stands beside it, waiting. You take one more step, headlamp tilting, vision narrowing to that single, frost-covered form. You know before you touch it that you're looking at the first solid piece of the answer you've been avoiding for most of your life. Your fingers start to reach out. Your fingers hover inches above the frost-covered fabric. You don't touch it at first. You can't. Something in your body recognizes this shape before your mind does. A slow tightening across your ribs, a pressure behind your eyes. Warning, memory, longing, fear, all braided together into one impossible sensation. The wolf waits beside the shape with unnatural stillness. You lower your hand. The first contact is gentle. Your glove brushes frost, sending a delicate cascade of crystals slipping away. Beneath them, the fabric emerges, dark blue, tightly woven, cracked where cold has eaten through the fibers. A jacket, not modern, not synthetic, older. Your pulse stumbles. You clear a larger patch with the side of your hand. More fabric appears, stiff and sun-bleached, the shape beneath becoming clearer shoulders, a curve of collapsed padding, the suggestion of a torso crumpled inward as if it had folded around something precious in its final moment of warmth. The glacier's breath groans distantly above you. You swallow. Okay. The word comes out thin. Okay, don't jump to conclusions, but a part of you already has. You crouch lower. Your light skims across frozen folds as you expose the contents layer by layer, working carefully, reverently, like the ice might scream if you're too sudden. Then you see it. A glove. Still attached to the end of a frozen sleeve, fingers curled inward, stiff, caught mid-gesture, reaching, holding, protecting. Your breath leaves you in a single, uneven burst. The wolf shifts for the first time since bringing you here. Not moving away, closer. Its flank brushes your arm, grounding you with a warmth so foreign in this cavern it makes your eyes sting. You force yourself to keep looking. There, nestled in the crook of the arm, half wrapped in the collapsed jacket, a metal object gleams inside the ice. Not smooth metal, not industrial, not random debris. Personal. You lean closer until your nose nearly touches the frost. Your lamp reflects off a curved, familiar surface. A thermos, not the empty one in the chamber behind you. This one is older. Dented, painted once in bright red, now chipped down to steel. A sticker clings crookedly to its side, edges peeling. A mountain, a wolf. Your father's thermos. Your stomach lurches so violently you have to grab the ice wall to steady yourself. The memory hits harder this time. Less a whisper, more a shove. The smell of diesel. Your father's laugh, wind whipping through the trailer door as snow rushed in. Your small voice asking, "Why is the road disappearing?" Then cut. The memory ends before impact. Your hand trembles as you wrap your fingers around the buried thermos, testing if it will budge. It doesn't. The ice is too thick, the metal trapped under decades of pressure. You steady yourself. You're not looking at random debris, you're looking at a body. It takes several breaths before you're willing to admit the shape is human, because once you admit that, the next question, the one you've spent your whole life not asking, crawls up your throat. Is it him? The wolf exhales softly through its nose, as if sensing the fracture inside you. You force your hand forward again. Work slowly, clear more frost, expose more fabric. Let the truth come in pieces, not all at once. The jacket peels away in patches, revealing a faint pattern stitched into the chest, 2 diagonal bars in faded thread. You don't recognize it. That almost helps. Then you find the pocket. There's something inside. Your fingers pause at the edge of the seam. The flap is frozen shut, crusted with layers of ice, but the outline beneath it is unmistakable. A hard rectangle, thin, small, a wallet. Your breath stutters. "No," you whisper. "Not like this, not here." The wolf watches you with unblinking patience. You dig your thumb under the icy flap, prying gently until it cracks. The sound is quiet but feels violent in the silence. The pocket tears open just enough to reveal a corner of the object inside. You pinch it between 2 fingers and pull. It comes free slowly, dragging shards of frost with it. When you lift it into your lamp's beam, your breath fogs the air in a trembling cloud. It's not a wallet, it's an ID card. The plastic is clouded, edges warped, parts unreadable. But as you wipe it against your coat, a photograph emerges. A face behind smeared laminate, blurred by time. Dark hair, a kind smile. Eyes that match yours. Your knees go soft. You fall back onto the snow, lamp swinging wildly. The wolf steps aside as you land but stays close, close enough that its fur brushes your knee. No, you breathe. No, no, he didn't die here. He didn't die in the glacier. He didn't die in the glacier. Someone would have told us. They would have found him. Your voice collapses under its own weight. You stare at the ID. Name, David Harlan, your father. The glacier holds him like a secret that waited for you specifically. A secret it couldn't give up until you stepped onto its skin. You become aware of your heartbeat again, slow, heavy, deliberate, each thud like something knocking inside your chest, asking to be let out. You look at the frozen body again, at the hand curled around the thermos, at the jacket bent inward, at the way the figure seems to be shielding the thermos with its entire torso, protecting it, protecting something inside it. The revelation hits you square in the sternum. This isn't a resting pose, it's a defensive one. Your father died holding something important enough to curl his whole body around, something the glacier preserved because he refused to let it go. Your hands shake as you lean forward to look more closely at the thermos. Not at the outside, at the lid. It isn't sealed. It's slightly cracked open, just enough to suggest something was stuffed inside before the cold froze everything in place. "What were you protecting?" you whisper. The wolf makes a low sound, not quite a growl, not quite a whine, a sound that vibrates through the chamber like a warning. You shine your lamp deeper into the crevice of the frozen arms. There, inside the thermos, buried under ice and dusted with frost, paper, folded, deliberate. Your head jerks upward. The chamber widens into tunnel after tunnel. There could be dozens more clues, dozens more fragments, dozens more pieces of your life scattered like breadcrumbs through the glacier. Your father didn't just die here. He left something here. For you, a sound breaks behind you. A crack. Sharp. Sudden. You spin just as a fracture races up the wall you touched earlier, a long, jagged vein of stress illuminated in your lamp like lightning trapped in glass. The tunnel behind you shifts. Ice dust rains down. The wolf backs up, ears flattened, gaze snapped tight on a new branch of the passage. Something is moving deeper in the glacier, not the soft groan of settling ice, not the harmless drip of meltwater. This sound is rhythmic, a heavy drag, a scrape. Something alive or something collapsing? You grip the ID card so tightly it bends in your glove. The wolf steps toward the noise. You step after it. You don't look back at the body. Not yet. You'll return. You have to. There's a message in that thermos, a final truth your father died protecting. But first, you have to survive what's coming down this tunnel. The sound comes again. Not closer, not farther, just there, steady, patient, like whatever is making it knows you're coming and doesn't feel the need to hurry. A drag, a scrape, a pause. Your headlamp beam shivers across the ice in time with your pulse. The wolf has already turned toward the noise, body angled, ears pricked. It doesn't bristle, it doesn't bare its teeth. But there's a tension in the line of its spine that tells you this isn't nothing. You peel yourself away from the frozen body in the alcove, the weight of your father's ID, a new gravity in your pocket. You can feel the edges of the plastic against your hip with every movement, like a small, insistent hand tugging you back. Later, you will come back. You will pry that thermos from the ice if you have to tear your gloves and skin your knuckles raw. But right now, the glacier is talking in a different voice, and if you ignore it, it might decide you're not listening at all. The narrow passage widens as you follow the wolf. Your boots brush fabric, once more of the jacket maybe, or some other artifact thrown here by the violence of whatever buried this place, and you have to fight the urge to apologize to the dead. Your lamp grazes the wolf's fur as it moves. Each time the light hits it, the animal looks less like a solid creature and more like something half made of mist and snow, edges soft, paws soundless. The drag scrape repeats. You notice now that there's a rhythm to it. 4 short sounds, pause, then one longer one, like something being wound and then released. A machine, a tool, a heartbeat made of metal. You tell yourself that's good. Machines you understand, machines you can fix, document, explain. The tunnel curves sharply to the right. You reach out to steady yourself and your fingers close around a protrusion that isn't ice round, cold, ridged metal. You snap your hand back before your brain supplies the word. Valve. Your light catches on it, then on the pipe attached. A rusted line disappears into the wall, then reemerges a few meters ahead, snaking along a passage like a buried vein. You aren't the first humans to be here. The thought should comfort you. It doesn't. If there was any official installation beneath this glacier, you would have read about it in the briefing. You went through stacks of reports, old station logs, mapping data. No mention of a tunnel, no mention of a buried trailer, no mention of any structure at all. Whatever this is, someone wanted it forgotten. The pipe leads you toward the sound. The wolf follows it without hesitation, nose close to the iced-over metal like it's chasing a scent line. The scrape grows louder, punctuated now by another noise, something like a low mechanical whine, strained and irregular. You passed another valve! Then a set of metal rungs bolted into the ice. Then a door. It's set into the wall at waist height, half swallowed by frost, rim fuzzed with delicate crystals. Not a big door more, like a hatch. Round, steel. A wheel lock sits in the center, frozen in place. For a moment you can only stare at it, because the shape is so absurdly submarine for a place made entirely of frozen water that your brain balks. The sound is louder now. It's coming from beyond the hatch. You step closer. Your boots slip a little on a patch of polished ice where something has brushed against it repeatedly, wearing a faint path. You steady yourself with a hand on the wall. The wolf stops just shy of the door. It doesn't approach any closer, as if there's an invisible line drawn on the floor. Its hackles lift a fraction. A low sound builds in its chest. Not fear, dislike. You don't have that luxury. You lean toward the hatch, breath steaming over the metal. The wheel lock is rimed over, but you can see the outline of letters stamped into the steel. Glacial core access R3. The words crawl into your bones like frost. You remember the summaries you skimmed in bed the night before flying out here? Research proposals from 20, 30 years ago? Experimental deep cores. Private funding. Labs that promise to pull time capsule climate signatures from ice so ancient it existed before human civilization. You didn't pay attention to the project names. You wish you had. You put your ear as close to the hatch as the cold will allow. The sound is clear now, a grinding spin, a drag, a loose, rattling tap, and something underneath almost too faint to catch. A whisper. You jerk back, heart lurching. Of course it's not a whisper. It's the ice, the pipe, the wind moving through some hidden channel. You lean in again anyway. This time you press your cheek against the cold metal, eyes closing, letting your other senses take over. The grinding resolves into a pattern, like a gear catching, trying, failing, trying again. The drag is something heavy being pulled. The tap is intermittent, sharp, almost hollow. Underneath, your mind insists there are shapes. Not words exactly, just the suggestion of voice. You pull away, skin burning with the sudden loss of contact. The wolf snorts softly. Yeah, you mutter. I don't like it either. Your gloved fingers wrap around the wheel lock. It doesn't move. You tighten your grip, brace your boots, and put more weight into it. Muscles in your forearms protest. A bolt of pain shoots through your injured wrist. The wheel doesn't care. Come on, you hiss. On the third try, something gives. Not much, just a tiny crack of ice along the edge of the hatch, but it's enough. The wheel twitches a centimeter. Then another. A flurry of frost breaks free and skitters to the floor. The grinding sound on the other side stops. Silence slams into your ears with almost physical force. You freeze, hands still on the wheel. For a heartbeat, you hear nothing but your own breathing and the small rhythmic click of the wolf's claws as it shifts its weight uneasily. Then you hear it. Not grinding, not dragging, a different sound entirely. A sharp burst of static, muffled by layers of metal and ice, and beneath it, a human voice thin and cracked, punching through for just 3 words before it disintegrates again. If anyone's there, your entire body stutters. You let go of the wheel, the static dies. The grinding starts up again, as if a machine has resumed a task it never finished. You stare at the hatch, heart thudding so violently you can feel it in your tongue. You know what old recordings sound like. You've listened to enough archive tapes, enough scratched field notes. That voice had that same grainy quality, like it was dragged across decades before reaching you. Not live, saved, trapped, played on a loop. Is that you? You whisper before you can stop yourself. Your father's voice was deeper, warmer. You haven't heard it enough in your adult life to trust your memory, but you know that much. This voice sounded different, older, tired. You look at the wheel lock again. If you open this, you might find the source of that voice, a recorder, a console, a dead station still trying to talk to the world that forgot it. You might find logs, data, a neat, comprehensible narrative. You might also break whatever fragile equilibrium has kept this structure from collapsing entirely. The wolf steps closer, pressing its flank against your leg. The contact startles you more than the static did, the pressure of warm muscle, the rise and fall of its breath. These anchor you in a way nothing else down here does. You look down. The animal isn't looking at the hatch anymore, it's looking past it. Your beam follows its gaze. You'd missed it at first, a narrow, almost invisible split in the wall just beyond the hatch, thin as a crack in a mirror. It hadn't caught your eye because the ice there is clearer than anywhere else, so clean it barely exists. Beneath it lies darkness, not the diffuse, echoing dark of open space. A vertical drop, a shaft. Something in your chest sinks in answer. The pipe follows the curve of the wall, dives into that narrow opening, disappears. The sound of grinding and dragging is louder here, vibrating up from below, bones of the glacier carrying it to your ear. The hatch is a surface access. The real heart of whatever this is lies deeper. You test the crack's width with your gloved hand. Your fingers fit just. If you turned sideways, you could probably squeeze through, but your pack would snag on every jag in the wall. The thought of removing it, of walking any deeper into this frozen maze without your gear, makes your skin crawl. Another burst of static pings through the ice. Repeat. Archive log. Anyone. The voice disintegrates into a hiss. You pull your hand from the crack. You're good at following tracks. Footprints, migration lines, patterns of scat and fur and feather. You've built a career on reading the paths of animals across landscapes that don't care whether you understand them. This, you tell yourself, is just another track. A path of machines and decisions instead of paw prints. You have two choices, the hatch, slow and methodical, or the crack, direct and dangerous. You look at the wolf. It moves toward the split in the wall. Of course it does. The animal slides its body sideways, shoulders compressing as it eases through the narrow opening. Its fur brushes the ice, leaving faint streaks where warmth meets cold. For a moment, only its hindquarters are visible, then its tail, then nothing. You're alone with the hatch again. Static hisses, small and needy. You unclasp your pack's chest strap. I hate this, you say, mostly to yourself. You shrug the shoulder straps off, working one arm free, then the other. Your body feels strangely light without the weight, naked almost. You lower the pack carefully to the floor beside the hatch, lamp beam clinging to it as if reluctant to let go. You keep the essentials on you, lamp, radio, beacon, ID, and pocket. You hesitate over the camera. It feels fragile now, absurdly delicate in a place that has crushed trailers and men without noticing. You tuck it against your chest under your jacket, close enough to feel its hard outline over your heart. Then you turn to the crack. It looks smaller now that you've committed to it, the way any decision does when it's too late to pretend you haven't made it. You angle your shoulders, exhale, and ease in. Ice kisses both sides of your face. The world tightens. You can't lift your arms much. Your hands slide along the wall, fingers numb through the gloves as you inch forward. Your boots search for purchase, toes scraping against unseen footholds. For a moment, panic scuttles up your spine, sharp and fast. What if you get stuck? What if the glacier shifts? What if you fix your attention on the rhythm of your breathing instead? In, out, in, out. A soft sound reaches you, just ahead. The wolf, blowing air through its nose in a quiet huff, as if reminding you it's there. You focus on that and keep going. The crack angles downward, then opens abruptly into a vertical shaft just wide enough for your shoulders. You flatten your back against one side, boots braced on the opposite, descending in careful, half-controlled slides. Below, you catch the first glimmer of reflected light. Your lamp finally reaches the bottom. The shaft empties into a space that feels wrong as soon as you see it. Not because of what's there, because of what isn't. No curves, no random growths, no organic irregularity at all. The floor is flat, the walls are straight. You drop the last meter and land on something that rings faintly under your boots. Metal. You're standing in a room carved into the glacier and lined with steel panels as if someone decided that nature needed walls. It's small, barely larger than an elevator, but it smells different from the rest of the tunnel. Less of mineral and ancient cold, more of stale breath, oil, a hint of burned dust long since cooled. The wolf stands near the far side beside a door, an interior one this time rectangular, industrial, paint flaking in long strips. Above it, half obscured by frost, a faded sign reads, "Archive Station! Cold storage!" A shiver rolls through you that has nothing to do with temperature. The grinding sound is loud here, coming through the door like a broken heartbeat. Underneath it, the static pulses again, followed by a fragment of that same cracked voice. Entry, Harlan, test. The rest dissolves. Your name is bad enough, but the surname? That's a direct hit. Your hand flies to the pocket where your father's ID sits, as if checking he's still there. Of course he is. He's in the wall behind you, in the thermos under his chin, in the sticker on the notebook in the chamber above. He's also here, in the machine voice that just swallowed his last name in static. The wolf looks up at you, waiting. Your heart is beating so hard now that the skin at your throat throbs. You put your hand on the archive room door. It's cold, but not as cold as the glacier. Heat has been here, recently, or just more intensely, long ago. Your fingers tighten around the handle. You draw a breath. Behind this door lies the second half of the story you never got told. What this glacier did isn't random. You push. The door does not swing open. It fights you. The handle gives under your grip with a brittle crack of ice, then sticks halfway, wedged in place by rust and a glacier's worth of indifference. You lean your weight into it, shoulder pressed against the cold metal, boot sliding an inch on the steel floor. Something inside your chest answers with the same stubborn pressure. Move! A long, protesting groan comes from the hinges. A seam of darkness widens at the edge of the door, thin at first, then thick enough for your headlamp to slip through. The beam cuts into the room beyond, finding floating dust, suspended frost, and the white curve of shelves! You push once more, gritting your teeth. The door jerks and then yields a sudden, shuddering half-meter. Cold air spills out, sharper than the chambers. It smells like old paper, dried electronics, and time. The grinding sound stops. The silence that follows is complete in a way the Glacier's never is. No creaks, no drips, no distant groans, just the faint rush of your own pulse and the wolf's quiet breathing beside you. You angle yourself sideways, squeeze through the narrow opening, and step into the archive. Your light sweeps from left to right. Metal shelves run along the walls, bolted into the steel lining, each one loaded with labeled boxes in neat rows. The labels have bled, ink spidered by moisture, but you can still make out parts, dates, project codes, jargon about isotope ratios and atmospheric markers. Along the far wall sits a low console, half buried in rime, its surface littered with relics, a cracked headset, an abandoned mug, a pen frozen mid-roll. Above it, a bank of dead monitors stares blankly, their glass dulled by frost. In the center of the room stands a cylindrical metal unit as tall as you are, cables snaking from its base into the floor and walls. Its surface is dusted with frost except where warmth has recently fought its way through, the faint outline of a handprint smudged across its side, now freezing again. Your lamp beam lingers there. You are not alone. You were alone. Once, long ago. Your memory tries to open that door again and slams it shut just as fast. The wolf pads softly into the room behind you. The metal floor reverberates faintly under its weight, a tiny, hollow echo proof that some space exists beneath this chamber. Layers above layers, secrets under secrets. Your light tracks the cables from the central unit to a box mounted near the console, its face a mess of corroded switches. One small indicator sits above them, a circular lens the size of a coin. It glows a weak, intermittent orange. Not dead, not fully alive. You move toward it, drawn the way you've always been drawn to faint signals in wild places, the rustle of an unseen animal, the hint of tracks under fresh snow, the ghost of something real in a landscape that tries to hide it. On the console, half collapsed under a thin blanket of frost, lies the machine that made the grinding sound. A reel-to-reel tape recorder. One reel is almost empty, the tape wound tight. The other is full plastic, cloudy with age. The tape itself is white with ice, a delicate ribbon stretched across the heads. You reach for the power switch, your fingers hover. You know what this is, not the model, not the spec, the function. You've listened to hours of these kinds of things. Scientists narrating field notes, pilots logging weather, rangers muttering into handheld recorders to keep themselves company in the dark. This one will be the same, until it isn't. You flip the switch. At first, nothing happens. Then a low hum rises from inside the machine, hesitant, wobbling. The indicator light on the power box brightens from weak orange to anemic yellow. Somewhere beneath your feet, you hear a faint tremor. Ancient generators stirring, cables remembering how to carry current. The reels jerk. The full one begins to turn, slowly dragging tape across the heads. The grinding sound resumes, softer now, steadier. Static crackles into the room, sharp and immediate, as if a storm has been compressed into the machine. You flinch despite yourself. The wolf does not. It stands near the doorway, body angled sideways as if ready to bolt, but eyes fixed on you. Static ebbs. A voice breaks through. Archive station log. Day 42, 43. The words scrape across your nerves, distorted, tired. This is Dr. Elias Ward recording alone. Again, not your father, not a stranger either. The name means nothing to you, but the tone is familiar. The dry humor of someone who's repeated an introduction so many times, it started to dissolve. I doubt anyone will ever hear this, the voice continues, but protocols are comforting. They give us the illusion somebody's listening. You find the edge of the console with your free hand, fingers locking white around the metal. Your lamp beam steadies on the machine, as if eye contact will make it more honest. Core extraction complete on sample R3, Ward says, integrity holding. Atmospheric bubbles consistent with preliminary readings. We've confirmed anomalous particulate presence at depth inconsistent with predicted models. The Glacier has been holding something that shouldn't be here. Your skin gets that too tight feeling, as if it's suddenly a size too small for your body. The man on the tape coughs, the sound dry and ragged. Test subject arrived on site yesterday, younger than I expected. Files were redacted, but the escort called him by name outside the station. Harlan, you stop breathing. Your lamp beam trembles. The wolf makes a low, almost inaudible sound, just enough to remind you your lungs still exist. You gulp air like you almost forgot how. They say he was found at the site of the trailer collapse as a child. Ward's voice goes on. Only survivor, no memory, psychological block, they think. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I know a defensive system when I see one. Your heart ricochets against your ribs so hard it hurts. He's talking about you. He has to be. Child, trailer collapse. Harlan, memory block. Your stomach turns to wet stone. Static surges again, flooding the room for a few seconds. The indicator light flickers. The reel stutters, then catches. When they pitched this project, Ward says after the noise fades, they talked about climate signatures, about reconstructing weather patterns from before recorded history. They didn't tell me they'd be sending people in with the cores. A long pause. You can hear him breathing. They think the glacier recorded more than air, he says softly, that it captured events, trapped them in tiny fractures, in chemical anomalies. Trauma, they called it in the closed sessions. The ice has a trauma response. It rearranges itself around catastrophic impact, sound, heat, stress, emotion. If emotion has a physical echo, the glacier would be where you'd find it. You don't realize you've taken a step backward until the wall touches your shoulders. The room feels smaller. The shelves lean in. The air weighs more than it should. Ward clears his throat. They want to see if human memory gaps can sync with those trauma signatures, he says. Put a subject back into the environment that hurt them. See if the ice can. Give something back. The wolf shifts its weight. You stare at the tape as if you could stop it by will. It keeps turning. Subject Harlan has been reacting to R3, Ward continues, voice quieter now, in ways the data can't explain. Elevated heart rate when we bring him near the core. Motor agitation, eye movements consistent with REM even while awake. When the lights dim, he stares at the ice like it's talking to him. We're supposed to keep him at one remove. Observe only. A brittle laugh. I've never been good at only watching. Your throat feels lined with glass. You don't remember any of this. You don't remember being brought to a lab or standing in front of a core sample or a man named Ward watching you like you were a storm he didn't quite understand. You remember a gap, a polite hole where questions bounced and fell silent. The tape crackles. Today, Ward says, I broke protocol. I took him down to the station's lower level. Let him see the trailer through the ice. We only dug out a corner, enough to confirm ID. He pressed his hand to the wall like he could feel heat through it. I think he knew before he knew. The wolf takes one step closer to you. You don't move. Ward's voice dips even lower. He said a word, the doctor murmurs. First time he said anything spontaneous since they brought him here, he touched the ice and whispered, higher, over and over, higher, higher. Then he started to shake. The word hits you like a punch. You hear your father's voice layered under your own. We're going higher, kiddo. And the taste of citrus rushes into your mouth out of nowhere. Lemon candies. You'd forgotten lemon candies. We had to sedate him, Ward says. It took longer than it should have. Something about the way the glacier responded. At least that's what I'm telling myself. The truth is, I didn't want him to stop. Static surges again, swallowing the next few seconds. You hear phantom consonants, a vowel that might be your name. The reels hitch, catch, spin. When he sleeps, Ward says, when the signal clears, the instruments change. Micro fluctuations in the ice, pressure anomalies. It's as if the glacier is listening or remembering with him. He takes a shaky breath. They want more, he says. They always do. The reps came down from the upper station this morning. Suits, polished boots, that look in their eyes like they're already spending the grant money. They want to put Harlan closer, bring the core into physical contact, trigger a deeper reaction. There's a long silence. Metal ticks faintly as something cools on the tape. I told them no, Ward says finally. Relief moves through you fast and sharp. I told him the glacier is not just a storage unit, he adds. It's responding. And he's a kid, not a switch. We can flip until he breaks. They reminded me who signed my checks. They reminded me who owns this station, this valley, this mountain, this ice. A bitter exhale. So I did the only thing I could think of, he says. I took him below without telling them, and I showed him the truth directly, not the core, the body. The thermos against the frozen chest, the ID in your pocket, the jacket curled around the last thing your father tried to protect. Your vision tunnels to a narrow circle around the tape machine. I thought maybe if he saw his father like that, Ward says, his mind would either shatter or finally stitch itself together, catastrophe or clarity. At least it would be his choice in whatever space still belonged to him. He coughs again, the sound weaker. I didn't predict what the glacier would do. The lights in the room flicker. Your headlamp sputters for a heartbeat, then steadies. The wolf's ears flatten, gaze jerking to the ceiling as if it heard something move in the steel above. The grinding sound under the tape grows louder, more rhythmic. "Pressure changed," Ward says. "Temperature spiked. Readouts went off scale for 30 seconds. You don't want spikes in a structure like this, not with steel and ice locked together." Stress redistributes. Cracks propagate. "We know this. We chose to forget." You brace your hand on the console. The trailer shifted in the ice, he says. "I saw it," like something grabbed it from below. When the tremor hit, a section of the glacier wall collapsed near the boy. He didn't scream. He just stared through the ice as if there was someone on the other side of the glass he couldn't reach. Your chest feels like it's being squeezed in a vice. By the time I dragged him back to the main level, Ward continues, the suits had arrived. They saw enough to understand. The glacier reacts when he remembers, or when it makes him remember. They want to harness that. Turn trauma into a measurement tool. Make him come back again and again. Something inside your head makes a small, desperate sound. They didn't. They couldn't. You can't remember. Static crackles, harsher now. The reels stutter. "I'm shutting it down," Ward says abruptly. "I'm shutting everything down. I'm sending him up with the last helicopter before the next storm. They can wipe my clearance. They can bury this station, but they're not keeping him here to tear him apart on an altar of ice." A dull thump on the tape, as if something hit the console. "If anyone's there," Ward says, "your earlier echo, don't let them bring him back." The glacier remembers enough. It doesn't need more. The grinding stops. You realize your shoulders are near your ears. You force them down. Silence again. Then the static returns. Louder, distorted, like the machine itself is panicking. Ward's voice lunges back onto the tape mid-sentence. "Lost R3. Repeat. We've lost core R3. The collapse took out the lower chamber. I think the glacier is reclaiming everything. The body, the trailer, the samples." A deep, shuddering groan under his words. Ice breaking. Metal twisting. Metal twisting. "He's gone," Ward gasps. "They took him up. They promised. They said..." The recording warps into a long, pained screech. For a second, you hear something else under it. Wind, shouting. The crack of something enormous giving way. Then, very faintly, 3 words. "I'm staying here. The reel's slow." Static thins. The light on the power box flickers once, dimming to ember. Then the machine dies. The hum in the floor fades with it, leaving the room so quiet you can hear frost settling. You're still holding the console in a death grip. Your fingers refuse to unclench. The wolf presses closer, shoulder against your thigh now, anchoring you to the present. You stare at the dead recorder. He tried to save you. He put you on a helicopter and stayed behind in the collapsing station with an impossible glacier and a buried body. He died alone in the dark so you could live a life that never told you why. You slide down the console slowly until you're sitting on the cold metal floor, legs splayed, lamp beams skewing upward. The shelves loom overhead, boxes mutely judging, their labels a litany of numbers that don't matter anymore. You're shaking, not from cold. You've chased storms and predators and cliffsides your whole adult life, gravitating to edges like they owed you something. You thought it was restlessness, wanderlust, the inconvenient personality of someone who never quite learned to settle. It wasn't. You've been replaying a pattern you didn't know you had, coming back to the place where something took your father and trying, over and over, to make sense of void. This valley, this ice, this feeling. You draw your knees up, wrapping your arms around them. Your lamp catches on your boots, on the wolf's paws where it stands beside you like a sentry. "This is where it all happened," you say, voice raw and small. "I was here! I was here!" Your own admission hits you harder than Ward's tape. You haven't just stumbled into a lost station. You've come back to the scene of your own erasure. The glacier groans overhead, a low, vast sound that makes the walls tick. For the first time since you fell, you feel something close to despair. This place took your father. It used your trauma as a tool. It buried everything that could explain who you are beneath meters of ice and steel. And now you're back in its teeth. What if it doesn't let go this time? Your breath stutters, speeding up without your permission. The edges of the room blur, then sharpen too much. Every sound spikes. Your heart, the tiny shifts in the shelves, the faint crackle of frost. Panic is a fast animal. It doesn't think, it runs. You grip your own sleeves hard enough to feel the seams bite. Slow down. You try to count your breaths. 1, 2, 3. It's easier to count the things this place has taken. You feel the hot pressure behind your eyes overflow, tears carving brief, burning tracks down skin so cold you barely feel your own face. The drops freeze almost as soon as they fall, tiny beads of ice clinging to your jaw. The wolf steps in front of you. For a second, all you can see is its chest. Fur rises and falls, each breath a steady rhythm. Its head lowers, filling your vision with its muzzle, its eyes. Yellow, yes, but there's something in them that pulls you back from whatever edge you're sliding toward. It doesn't look pitying or mystical or human. It looks anchored, grounded in a way you are not. You stare into those eyes, trying to borrow whatever that is. Your breathing begins to match the wolf's without you meaning it to. In, out, slower, deeper. Air finally reaching the parts of your lungs that had locked up. Your hands loosen on your sleeves. The room stops pulsing. The wolf leans in, very slightly, until its forehead bumps against your shoulder. It could be a coincidence, a stretch of balance, an animal shifting its weight. You choose not to see it that way. Okay, you whisper. Your voice still shakes, but it exists. Okay, I hear you. I'm here. I'm not gone. Not like last time. The last time you were here, you left in a helicopter and never came back. This time, you're not leaving without answers. You wipe your face on your sleeve, scraping away the thin shells of frozen tears. The motion is clumsy, but it feels like drawing a line. The tape is done. Ward is gone. But he didn't just save you then. Through that machine, through that recording, he's given you something now. Proof. Proof that what happened wasn't just a random accident. Proof that there's more buried here than wreckage. Proof that your missing pieces are not fiction. You push yourself up from the floor. Your legs protest, tingling with pins and needles, but they hold. The wolf steps back just enough to give you space, then falls in beside you as you turn toward the door. You're not done with this station. You still have to get the message out of your father's thermos. You still have to see whatever the glacier wanted to show you when it swallowed your childhood. You take one last look at the dead machine, at the still reels, at the shelves of silent boxes. You tried, you murmur to the empty room. I'm sorry you stayed. No answer comes. The glacier shifts overhead, not in reply, but in its own rhythm. You move to the door, your hand finds the handle, your shoulder pushes. As it opens, a new sound slips in from the tunnel beyond. Not grinding, not static, something sharper, the brittle, unmistakable crack of ice fracturing nearby. Closer than it should be, the wolf's head snaps toward the noise. You follow its gaze. The glacier listened. It remembered. The crack echoes again. This time, it isn't distant. It runs through the archive station itself, a sharp, splintering report that you feel more than hear. Through your boots, up your shins, into the hollow under your sternum. The walls answer with a chorus of smaller ticks. The glacier is moving. You and the steel cage inside it are just along for the ride. The wolf steps into the doorway ahead of you, body a pale wedge against the darker tunnel. Its ears are pinned back, nostrils flaring as it tastes the air. Another vibration rolls through the floor, gentler, like a warning shot after the first. It's enough! You step out of the archive room. The metal floor feels thinner now, more fragile, as if there's less glacier supporting it than there was an hour ago. Your lamp beam cuts across the claustrophobic shaft you dropped through, up toward the crack you squeezed in by. Frost falls in a thin, glittering curtain from its edges. You glance back once at the dead reel-to-reel, at the boxes lined up in their graveyard rows. You have the story word left. What you don't have yet is your father's. You can't let this place seal itself again with his last message still entombed. Come on, you say, mostly to yourself. The wolf doesn't need encouragement. It's already in motion, slipping into the vertical shaft with the grace of water pouring through a funnel. Its claws find invisible holds in the ice. It scales the narrow gap with a series of controlled upward bursts, snow flaking from its coat as it goes. You take a breath that feels like swallowing knives and follow. The shaft is tighter going up than it was coming down. Gravity is against you. Your muscles are colder, slower, less forgiving. You plant your boots, wedge your back against one wall and knees against the other, an inch upward, remembering training climbs on dry rock and warm air where the worst thing that could happen was embarrassment. Here, humiliation would be the least of your problems. Your injured wrist protests the strain. A dull, hot ache pulses up your forearm each time you shift your weight. You grit your teeth and ignore it. There are worse pains circling behind you now, the kind that turns steel rooms into flattened relics if you wait too long. Halfway up, the shaft shudders. You freeze, legs trembling, body pressed so tightly against the ice that your parka squeaks. A deep groan ripples through the glacier, long and low, like an animal considering whether to cough up a bone stuck in its throat. Tiny fissures skitter across the surface near your face, harmless hairlines for now. Not now, you whisper into the dark. Just hold together a little longer. You don't know who you're talking to. The ice, Ward's ghost, your father, yourself. You move again, faster this time. Your fingers find the lip of the crack and pull. Your shoulders scrape. Ice kisses your cheek with biting cold. You throw your weight forward and tumble into the narrow tunnel above, landing in a graceless heap. The wolf is waiting, facing back the way you came, as if it's been standing guard while you climbed. Good, you mutter between breaths. Nobody stole the door to my trauma while I was gone. Your laugh sounds wrong in the tunnel. You push to your feet, headlamp beam steadying as your lungs remember their job. Behind you, the vertical shaft gapes. Exit and trap all in one. In front of you lies the path back to the station entrance, back to your pack, back to the rope and the chamber where your father's body lies curled around that thermos. The glacier groans again, closer. Snow sifts down from a hairline crack in the ceiling and lands on your eyelashes, melting instantly, turning the world briefly prism-like. Move, you tell yourself. You do! The wolf leads, finding the shallower slope with unerring instincts, weaving between protrusions of ice and twisted metal that mark where the station once pushed its way outward. Your lamp flickers over rusted valves, over the hatch you left sealed, over the place where you first chose to abandon safety and go deeper. It feels like days have passed since then. You reach the spot where you unshouldered your pack. For a wild moment, you picture it swallowed by some miniature collapse, buried under tons of ice. The idea of losing it punches an absurd gulp of fear through your ribs, not just for the gear, but for what it represents, the surface, your work, the life that exists outside this frozen confession booth. Your light catches on familiar shape. The pack sits exactly where you left it, dusted with a delicate frosting that makes it look as though it's aged a year since you last saw it. You exhale, something unknotting in your stomach. You shrug into the straps, the weight thumping back against your spine like a hand, heavy but reassuring. The rope clipped to the side swings with the motion, thudding lightly against your leg. The beacon under your jacket still blinks its small green pulse. For the first time, you register that it means nothing down here. No one is watching that signal. No one is monitoring your vitals or your coordinates or the quiet combination of choices that led you into the glacier's throat. You are past all the safety nets. Only one thing matters now. Get back to your father. Get the thermos. Get out. You start toward the chamber where you found the notebook and the suspended mug. The sound of the glacier follows. Each step you take is answered by a creak, a groan, a distant thunder you feel more than hear. The tunnel bends and narrows, then opens again. At one point, your lamp skims over the embedded side of the trailer, its windows clouded by thicker frost than before, its edges less distinct, like the ice has begun to reclaim contours it once surrendered. Too late, you mutter. You already spoke. The wolf pauses there, sniffing at a fresh crack running along the wall. The line slices through the trailer's outline, passing beneath the frozen photograph you saw earlier. You lift your beam toward it. For a second, the image warps in the fractured ice. The smaller figure, your childhood self, seems to shimmer, features blurring until all that's left is the impression of a kid with arms thrown wide at the base of a mountain they thought belonged to them. Your chest twists. You move on before the glacier can rearrange any more ghosts in front of you. The tunnel spills you back into the chamber with the hanging mug. The sound is different here now. The steady, drip-ting rhythm you followed earlier has gone irregular. The mug hangs at a crooked angle, one side buried in a clump of fresh ice, the rope twisted where something has shifted above. Droplets fall less frequently, hitting the rim with uncertain timing, as if the glacier has started to forget its own psalm. You sweep your light around the room. The chair is still there, more tilted than before. The lantern lies on its side now, as if an invisible hand finally knocked it over. Your notebook, your childhood notebook, has slid off its low snow mound and lies face down in the frost, cover half open, pages glued to the floor. You take an involuntary step toward it, then catch yourself. Later, you cannot afford another detour into the past before you secure the message meant for you. Come on, you tell the wolf. You know where we're going? It does. It turns toward the smaller passage that leads to the alcove where your father lies. The air changes as you enter the offshoot tunnel. Colder? Yes, but there's something else underneath now. A faint sweetness, almost metallic. The smell you get when ice has freshly broken. Surfaces exposed that haven't tasted open air since long before you were born. Your breath leaves your mouth in shorter bursts, each one visible for a fraction of a second before the tunnel swallows it. You round the last curve, your lamp finds the alcove, your body stops before your brain catches up. The shape on the floor is no longer partially buried. The ice around your father's body has fractured, a spiderweb of cracks radiating outward from where his arms lock around the thermos. Chunks of frost lie scattered like broken glass. Part of his jacket is slumped free, revealing more of the torso beneath, ribs outlined under stiff fabric, the suggestion of a collarbone. The thermos has shifted. It's no longer completely encased. A third of its metal surface is exposed, jutting from the shattered cradle of ice like a relic being pushed up out of the earth after a thaw. For a heartbeat, terror spikes through you. Irrational animal that the glacier might have swallowed whatever was inside it as it rearranged itself. Then you see it. The lid is still wedged crookedly into place, a sliver of dark gap visible between it and the body of the thermos. Frost rims the seam, but the angle hasn't changed. Whatever he put inside is still there. The glacier is loosening its grip. You drop to your knees without feeling them hit. Snow explodes under you in a soft spray. Your gloves dig into ice dust and broken shards as you crawl forward, lamp beam clinging desperately to the thermos. The wolf stays at the tunnel mouth as if this moment is yours alone. You don't look at your father's face. You haven't seen it yet, not fully. You've intentionally kept your gaze away from where flesh might still cling to bone, from the hollows where eyes once were. You want to remember him as he was in the photograph, grinning, alive, leaning against the trailer as if nothing bad could reach him. Maybe that's cowardice. Maybe it's the last kindness you can give yourself. Your focus narrows to the metal cylinder he died holding. Your hands move before you consciously decide how. You clear away loose ice around the thermos, scooping and brushing carefully, fingers stinging as bits of frozen water find seams in your gloves. The more you expose, the more you see the way his arms wrapped around it, forearms locked, chest curled, everything angled to shield that container from whatever avalanche or collapse crushed this chamber. "Okay," you murmur, sound barely audible. "I've got it. You can let go now." Of course he doesn't move, of course he doesn't hear. But the glacier does. As you pry a larger shard of ice away from the thermos, a low, resonant crack runs through the floor beneath you. The vibrations shudder up your arms, into your elbows, and then into your teeth. Dust falls in a thin sheet from the ceiling, frosting your shoulders. You freeze! Light, sound, breath. Everything holds for one stretched second. Then the moment passes, leaving you in the same half-collapsed alcove, your father's body still rigid around the thermos, your fingers hooked under its rim. You swallow. "Just a little more," you whisper. You wedge your boots against the ground, brace your back against the slab of ice that still cradles his torso, and pull. The thermos doesn't move. Your injured wrist flares with hot protest. You grit your teeth and shift your grip, using more of your forearms, less of the weaker joint. A pain sound escapes your throat that you don't recognize as your own. "Let go," you rasp. This time not sure whether you're talking to the ice or to him. Something gives. Not the thermos, his fingers. You feel one of the frozen hands shift slightly, bones scraping against the metal as they loosen their millennia-long clutch. Shoulder seams creak. Ice dust trickles from the crook of his elbow. The feeling is so obscenely intimate you have to close your eyes. You almost see it. His last moments, the way his body must have tightened around this cylinder, how every survival instinct redirected into protecting whatever he'd stuffed inside. Maybe for you, maybe for Ward, maybe for anyone who would come after. You open your eyes again. You're not that child anymore, waiting for an explanation that never arrived. You are the one prying his secret free. You twist the thermos, ignoring the way the movement grates his arm against frozen ground. The lid grinds against ice, then pops, spinning half a turn in your grasp. A razor-thin sliver of warmer air spills out, a ghost of plastic, paper, and something else that makes your throat prickle. You yank harder. The container finally tears free of the embrace. You stumble backward with the momentum, landing hard on your rear. The thermos slams against your chest, then settles into your hands heavier than it looks. The sound the glacier makes then is different, not a crack, a sigh. A long, weary exhalation that shivers through the chamber, up the tunnel, and into the wider body of ice beyond, as if some tension it had been holding has just been released. You stare at the thermos. It's dented worse than you realized, metal warped and buckled, paint flayed off in long scrapes. The sticker with the mountain and wolf is still there, barely, edges flapping around a stubborn scrap of adhesive. Your fingers feel clumsy as you twist the lid the rest of the way. It resists for a heartbeat. Then the seal breaks. The smell that comes out is faint but instantly familiar. Old paper, graphite, something that once might have been glue. You tilt the thermos. A roll of plastic slides into your palm. Not just plastic. You recognize the texture with the same visceral jolt you felt when you saw your own handwriting on the notebook. Photograph sleeve. You unroll it. Several photos spill out, edges stuck together. You peeled them apart carefully, breath held, lamp beam close. Mountains, the trailer, you and your father at the edge of a frozen lake. A shot of the valley from above, before the landslide, before the station, before any of the scars. The glacier is smooth, untouched, a blank sheet waiting for something to write on it. On the back of each photo is cramped, hurried writing. Not your father's, Ward's looping hand. You flip one over. R3 test region, pre-collapse. Boy shows response here, elevated eye tracking. The next, subject. Harlan verbal, higher. Core alignment correlated. The third, David Harlan insisted we leave these with H, said he'll need to see where he started if he ever comes back. Your throat burns. There's something else in the thermos. You turn it upside down and shake gently. A small folded object lands in your palm. Paper. You unfold it with fingers that don't quite obey you. On one side, there's a map hand-drawn, lines shaky, perspective skewed the way non-cartographers always do. It shows the valley, the glacier, the approximate location of the station, the trailer's silhouette etched in by the lower edge. Arrows point downward into the ice, annotated with Ward's precise script. Impact zone. Core anomaly. Body. One last arrow points upward. Exit path if the ice cooperates. On the other side of the paper, there's a different handwriting. Your father's. Less discipline than Ward's letters, bigger, more pressure on the downstrokes. Kiddo, you blink hard. The word swims. You force yourself to keep reading. Kiddo, if you're holding this, then the stupid thing I agreed to has gone wrong in exactly the way I worried it would. I'm sorry. They told me bringing you here might help you remember without breaking you. They told me the glacier could give you back something it took. I wanted to believe them. I should have listened to my gut, not their graphs. If you made it out when everything started to fall apart, good. Stay out. Don't come back unless you're ready to know what happened. If you come back anyway, at least you won't be alone with the ice. Ward understands more than he lets them see. You stop there, pulse roaring in your ears. Another crack rattles the chamber closer, sharp enough that a piece of ice falls from the ceiling and explodes beside your boot. The wolf lunges backward, then holds its ground, hackles bristling. You look up. A jagged line is crawling across the arch of the alcove, slicing toward the tunnel. The glacier is done waiting. You drag your eyes back to the note, reading faster now, sentences blurring into each other. You've always wanted to go higher, up the mountain, into the snow, above the clouds. I love that about you, but sometimes higher means deeper, down into the places we don't want to look. If the glacier shows you what happened, remember this: you survived. Not because the ice spared you, because people did. Don't let them turn what hurt you into a tool. Don't let them make you live here as a subject, a switch, a thing. You are more than what this place did to you. Another chunk of ice shears off the wall, narrowly missing your shoulder. You get to choose where your story goes after this. The line shakes. Love you past all the mountains, Dad. You fold the note with trembling care, pressing the creases tight. You don't have time to process it. You don't have time to mourn or rage or sit in the alcove and let your heart break in full. The glacier is losing patience. A vertical fissure splits the floor at your knees, a clean line that widens as you watch. Fine shards tumble into its darkness, vanishing without a sound. A new noise joins the chorus, a muffled roar from somewhere below, like distant surf in a stone throat. The wolf barks once, sharp, urgent. You shove the note and photographs into your inner pocket, tucking them behind the beacon against your chest. The thermos, empty now of its message, feels strangely lighter. You don't want to leave it. You also don't have a spare hand. You make a fast decision. Set the thermos back in the crook of your father's arm, pressing his frozen fingers around it. Thank you, you whisper, the words breaking at the edges. I heard you. Another crack answers. Time's up. You scramble to your feet as the fissure at your knees snatches at your balance, boots slipping toward the widening gap. You lurch sideways, shoulder hitting the wall hard enough to send a bright flash across your vision. The wolf is already moving up the tunnel. You follow, lungs dragging at the cold air, muscles firing through the numbness. Behind you, something large shifts. Ice, bone, metal, accompanied by a deep, doleful grinding that feels like the glacier is finally doing what glaciers do best, erasing. You don't look back. If you do, you might see your father's body tumbling into darkness, and you don't know if you can live with that image lodged between your ribs. You focus on the wolf's tail swaying ahead of you, on the way it finds the places where the floor still holds. You stumble past the chamber with the hanging mug. The rope has snapped now, the cup lying on its side in a pile of ice chips, its soft clatter drowned by the growing roar. What now? You shout over the noise, words bouncing off the walls. The wolf doesn't answer, but it changes direction, not back toward the drilled tunnel that leads to the station hatch and the shaft you fell through. It veers off into an adjacent passage you hadn't noticed before, a low, rough-hewn corridor that angles upward at a sharper pitch. Higher! The word is a bruise in your mouth. You follow anyway. The new tunnel is narrower than the others, walls less polished. It feels less like something carved by human engineers and more like a fault line widened over years of pressure and thaw. Your shoulders brush the sides. Your pack scrapes, straps, catching on protrusions. You duck under hanging shards of ice that tremble when you pass. The roar behind you grows, the sound of a world being rearranged. At one point, a section of the wall collapses just after you squeeze by, showering your back with fragments. A slab of ice wedges itself where your legs were seconds before, blocking the path behind. No going back. Fine, you're done with going back. You climb. Your thighs burn with the effort, muscles trembling. Your injured wrist twinges each time you use your hands to steady yourself. Your breath saws the air into rough segments, each exhale leaving vapor that immediately tears apart. The wolf moves like this terrain was designed for it. At last, a pale smear appears ahead, the suggestion of light that isn't from your lamp, filtered, diffused, tinged with something warmer than glacier blue. You push harder. The tunnel bows upward one last time and then disgorges you into a cavern so bright you instinctively throw an arm over your eyes. Your headlamp beam is suddenly irrelevant. You blink rapidly, spots dancing in your vision. As they fade, the source of the light resolves. The ceiling is split. A jagged wound has opened in the glacier's roof, jagged edges framing a rectangle of sky. Real sky, not the blank white sheet you walked under earlier, but a bruised purple dome streaked with the last orange of a dying sun. Snowflakes drift lazily through the opening, turning, glinting, landing on the chamber floor with soft, unimportant clicks. You're higher than you were when you entered. The glacier itself has brought you closer to the surface. The wolf stands near the center of the cavern, directly beneath the tear in the ice. It looks up at the sky, then back at you. You step forward, heart pounding. Freedom is right there. All you would have to do is find a way up those broken shelves of ice, claw your way out, stumble across the valley until your beacon finally means something again. You'd emerge into a world that has no idea what's under its feet, holding a note, a handful of photographs, and enough evidence to bury a program that thought it could turn trauma into data. You'd be alive. But something about the way the light moves along the walls makes you pause. The ice here isn't clean. It's striated with bands of color, rust, ash gray, faint, sooty smears that don't belong in pure glacial layers. Trapped in those bands are shapes you recognize now: twisted steel, shards of plastic, fragments of fabric. The entire cavern is a memory, your memory. This is where the trailer fell. This is where the station collapsed. This is where the glacier swallowed your father, your childhood, Ward's last decision. And this is where it has decided to show you everything at once. The roar rises around you, vibrating the floor. The wolf's hackles lift. You realize all at once that the safest path isn't to scramble blindly for the surface. It's to stand here, in the heart of the storm the glacier has been holding, and finally let it finish telling you what happened. You square your shoulders. Okay, you say to the ice, to the sky, to the wolf, to your father, to the kid you used to be. Show me! The glacier answers. The floor cracks, the light flares, the world tips. You fall, not down this time, but inward, straight into the moment the mountain took everything. You don't fall into darkness. You fall into memory. Not metaphor, not emotion, something physical. The glacier doesn't swallow you so much as unspool around you, layers peeling back like pages in a book that has been waiting for you to open it. Snow dissolves into white blur. Ice fractures into beams of light. The cavern splits. Not upward or downward, but outward, as though the world around you is a lens being adjusted until the truth snaps into focus. Your boots hit something solid, not ice, wood, a floorboard. Your lungs seize. Wind slams against your face, warm compared to the glacial air. The smell that fills your nose is impossible. Diesel, damp canvas, and lemon candy wrappers torn open with sticky fingers. You know this place. You're inside the trailer. Not frozen, not buried. Alive, whole, as it was. You jerk forward, hand hitting the wall, the same wall you once traced with marker drawings because your father told you travelers leave messages for mountains. The wolf stands beside you, inside the memory. Real, you don't question how, you can't. You're too busy drowning in the avalanche of recognition. A voice calls from the front. Hey, you awake back there, kiddo? Your heart stops and then restarts so violently you sway. You turn. Your father stands at the small kitchenette, one hand braced on the counter, the other reaching for a thermos. The same thermos now frozen beneath a glacier, except here it gleams bright red under the jaundiced trailer lights. He smiles. It's him, not frostbitten, not hollow-eyed, not curled around a message he died to protect. Alive, laughing. You said you wanted to see snow, he says. Not nap through it. Your throat clamps shut. You try to speak, but only manage a raw, choked inhale. He doesn't notice. This isn't interactive. It's a recording carved into the glacier's body, preserved in stress fractures, compressed into ice grains, replaying like the reel-to-reel but in 3 dimensions. A living archive. You are a child again in this space, even though you are standing as an adult. The wolf moves around you, as if exploring a museum exhibit built from your own life. Your father caps the thermos and steps to the door. Come on, he says. The view's something else. He opens it. Cold wind blasts in less savage than the glacier's current breath, but sharp enough to make your eyes sting. You follow him instinctively, the wolf pacing at your heel. The world outside is crystalline. The mountain rises ahead in a white sweep. Clouds drift low, brushing the ridgeline. Tracks in the snow show where you and your father had walked earlier, small prints beside big ones. He steps forward, and memory, you runs past him, a bundle of winter gear and excitement, shouting something you can't fully hear under the roar in your ears. Your father laughs. "To the lake, then," he yells after your younger self. "But stay close! Your breath catches! The lake!" You remember the lake in fragments mirror smooth, ringed by pines, so still it felt like a secret itself. Your child self runs toward it. You, adult, you follow at a slower pace, legs trembling, unsure whether you're allowed to touch this moment, whether doing so will shatter it. The wolf keeps pace with you, eyes flickering between you and the unfolding scene. Ahead, snow shifts. The forest edge looks wrong. Branches droop too heavily. Shadows gather where they shouldn't. The air carries a pressure you recognize instinctively. An omen the mountain ignored until the last moment. Your father hesitates. He looks up. The sky darkens in a blink. A sound like cracking thunder rolls across the valley, deep and bone-heavy. The glacier shakes beneath your feet, even though then, it should not yet have broken. Your younger self turns, startled. Your father lunges. Everything speeds up and slows down at once. The far slope, a white wall previously solid, begins to ripple. A wave of snow lifts off the mountain face with terrible grace. Ice fractures high above, sending up plumes of powder. A roar builds, a voice as old as the world clearing its throat. Your father's shout is lost in the rising storm. He grabs you, small you, throws you toward the trailer. You watch your child self stumble, fall, scramble. Adult, you takes a step as if you can intervene, but your foot hits nothing. You are in a memory, not a world that bends to your will. The wolf barks sharply, snapping you back into the moment. The avalanche hits the valley. Snow slams downward, picking up broken trees, stones, chunks of ice. The wind becomes a physical force, a wall pushing you back. Your father disappears into the swirl, reappears, fights his way to the trailer. He slams the door open, shoves your child self inside. The second he pivots to climb in, the glacier beneath the trailer shifts. A fissure opens, long, deep, hungry. The trailer tilts. Your father loses his footing, tumbles backward as the ground under him collapses entirely. You scream. The wolf presses against your leg, grounding you, reminding you you're here, in the present, witnessing, not reliving. Your father rolls, grabs a jutting piece of root, hangs on for a wrenching second. Then the trailer falls, not straight down, at an angle, into a forming crevasse. Your younger self is inside. Your father dives after it. The world goes white. When the snow settles, everything is in pieces. Trees half buried, ice boulders where no rocks should exist, and the trailer, broken, crushed, rests deep inside the newly formed gash, its bright paint already fading under the frost. Your father crawls toward it, dragging a leg that bends wrong. He reaches the door and tears at the latch with numb fingers. Inside, your younger self is unconscious, pinned against the wall by a fallen cabinet. Your father screams your name. The sound is muffled, swallowed by the soft new snow. He climbs inside anyway. As he lifts the cabinet, the glacier speaks again, a low, grinding shift. The crevasse widens. The trailer drops another meter. Your father wraps you, small, you in his jacket. The same jacket frozen in the alcove now, the same creases, the same patches. He whispers something into your hair. Stay with me, kiddo. You feel yourself, adult self, fold inward. The wolf noses your hand, urging you to watch what happens next. Your father drags you out through the broken window, shoving you away from the moving ice, toward the one patch of ground that hasn't yet begun to collapse. You slide through snow, limp but alive. He tries to follow. The glacier takes him instead. The crevasse snaps closed like a mouth. The vision shatters, not quickly, slowly, like glass fracturing from a single impact point. The world breaks into slivers of light and drifting snow until the memory dissolves and the cavern around you returns. The real cavern, under the torn roof of ice, sky glowing overhead. The wolf is beside you. Your knees hit the ice. You don't know how long you stay that way. Breathing, remembering, breaking, rebuilding. When you finally lift your head, the glacier is silent, not dead, listening. The wolf pads forward, sits in front of you, head tilted. Its eyes reflect the torn sky, yellow-rimmed with fading gold. You reach out a hand. It steps closer. For the first time, it places its forehead against yours. A contact so gentle, it unthreads something tight inside you. Your father didn't abandon you. He didn't get lost. He didn't leave you for a project or a job or a cause. He died saving you. The glacier didn't take your past. It kept it, preserved it, held it until you were strong enough to face it, and now it has given it back. You exhale. A sound rises in the cavern, not a crack, not a groan, a release, the ice settling, the storm unwinding, the memory complete. When you stand again, your legs are unsteady, but they are yours. Your history is too. The wolf turns toward the icy ramp leading to the open sky. It looks back once, then walks upward, inviting you to follow. You follow the wolf toward the light. At first, your legs move on habit alone, muscle memory from a lifetime of hikes, climbs, field assignments. But as you take each step up the broken ramp of ice, you realize something has shifted. You're not walking away from anything anymore. You're walking with it. The cavern floor slopes steadily upward, a frozen river caught mid-cascade. The sky above the torn ceiling deepens from bruised purple to ink as the last smear of sunset dissolves behind fast-moving clouds. Snow drifts down in slow, lazy spirals, catching in the fur along the wolf's spine, melting against your cheeks. Your lamp beam is unnecessary now. You switch it off. The darkness that settles is not complete. Moonlight, thin but insistent, filters through the jagged opening, painting silver streaks across the ice. The world looks less like a tomb and more like a cathedral that has taken some damage but still insists on standing. Your boots crunch softly. Behind you, the glacier is quiet, not inert. Satisfied. It showed you what it had to say. It's your turn now. The ramp steepens near the top. The broken lip of the ceiling looms above, a jagged mouth rimmed with icicles and overhanging shelves that look as though they'd snap off if you breathe too hard. The wolf scales them with unsettling ease, claws finding invisible holds. It reaches the edge, pauses, and looks back down at you. Your shoulders ache. Your injured wrist throbs in time with your heartbeat. The note under your jacket is a small, crinkled weight over your chest, every fold pressed into your skin. You're tired, not just bone tired, life tired. You could sit down right here, let the glacier close up around you, become another layer, another secret, another story nobody hears. You picture Ward alone in the station, your father diving after the trailer, your younger self stumbling through snow. They all made the same mistake at least once, staying where the ice wanted them instead of walking away when they still could. You adjust your pack, set your jaw, and start the last climb. You test each foothold, probing with your toe before committing weight. Chunks of ice shear away beneath your boots, clattering down the slope. You feel the drop at your back like a hand between your shoulder blades, urging you upward, a reminder of how far you'd fall if you misstep. Your fingers hook over an overhanging lip, tendons screaming. You ignore them and haul yourself up, chest scraping the edge. The wolf steps aside, giving you room. You flop out onto the surface. Snow embraces you like a soft, shocked exhale. For a moment, you just lie there, spread out on your back in the open night, staring up at the sky. It's bigger than you remember, an endless bowl pricked with cold stars, clouds torn into ragged bands by high wind. No ceiling, no steel, no ice pressing down. You breathe in air that hasn't been filtered through centuries of compression. It burns in a different way. Alive, you close your eyes. The wind brushes your face the same way it must have brushed your father's as he stood at the edge of the valley, promising you snow. You hear your name, not from the glacier, from your radio. The sound is faint at first, so entangled with the wind you almost miss it, a crackle at your shoulder, a burst of static. Then, through the distortion, Lan, you copy, base to Harlan, respond. Your hand jerks toward the mic on instinct. You roll onto one elbow, fumbling for the unit clipped to your strap. The casing is scratched, faceplate cracked, but when you thumb the button, a little red LED winks to life. Your voice feels rusty when you use it. "This is Harlan," you say. The words come out rough, but they come. "I'm here." Static. Then a rush of overlapping sounds, exhalations, half-formed curses, relief turned into noise. "Jesus, Harlan?" The dispatcher's voice breaks through at last. "We lost your signal hours ago. Your beacon stopped moving. Thought well, where the hell are you?" You glance around. The surface of the glacier spreads out in all directions, a frozen ocean sculpted into dunes and ridges by wind. Far off, the valley walls rise, dark teeth against the sky. You can see where the landslide ripped into the ice. The fresh scar glints under the moonlight, a jagged line of broken seracs and exposed blue. You don't know exactly where you are, but the map in your pocket does. You pull the folded paper out with your free hand, keeping the radio pressed to your cheek with the other. Ward's shaky lines have taken on a different sort of clarity now that you've walked them. You orient yourself by the shape of the valley, the notch in the ridge, the shadowed curve of the old tree line far below. "North flank," you say slowly, eyes tracking between real world and sketch. "Roughly 200, maybe 250 meters above the R3 landslide face. There's a surface breach." A big one. You'll see it from the chopper. There's a pause. You're telling me the glacier just opened? The dispatcher asks, incredulous. You look back at the tear in the ice you just climbed out of, at the fractured cavern below, still glowing faintly with reflected sky. At least once, you say. Your fingers tighten around the radio. It would be so easy to say nothing more. To let this become just another near-miss story, a brush with danger, a technical rescue, a couple of thrilling photos to spice up your report. But the thermos, the ID, the tape, the station, your father's note crinkles against your chest when you inhale. Don't let them turn what hurt you into a tool. They already did. You owe it to him and to yourself to make sure they don't again. There's more, you say, before you can talk yourself out of it. There's an installation under the glacier, old, an archive station. You won't find it on any map they gave you. Static hums. That doesn't sound good, the dispatcher says carefully. It isn't, you answer, your voice steadies. You'll want a legal observer and a recorder, and probably someone who knows what corporate shell owns this valley now. A low whistle comes through the speaker. Copy that, they say. We'll dispatch the helicopter and inform the director. ETA, once we get coordinates locked and weather checked, we'll get to you. We'll get to you. The wind tears a few words away. It doesn't matter. You're not going back under this ice alone again. You let go of the transmit button, the radio dangling from your fingers for a moment before you clip it back into place. The wolf stands a few meters away, watching you. Its fur is ruffled by the wind, light and shadow chasing each other along its back. The snow around its paws is untouched, except for crisp, perfect prints. The urge to cross the distance and bury your fingers in its coat hits you so fast it startles you. You resist. This isn't a dog that grew up in backyards and living rooms. This is a creature shaped by the same forces that shaped this valley. Older, quieter, with allegiances you don't pretend to understand. Did you know what I'd find? You ask it. Your voice sounds small up here. The wolf blinks once, slow. You get the sense that the question doesn't make sense to it, not the way you mean it. It didn't guide you because of knowledge the way you think of it. Files, memories, plans. It moved through instinct, pressure, a response to threads you can't see. You take a step toward it, another. It doesn't back away. You stalk just within arm's reach. For a moment, you simply stand there, the two of you outlined against the torn glacier, breathing the same air. Thank you, you say. You mean it for the wolf, for Ward, for your father, for the glacier that, for all its brutality, carried your story in its frozen heart instead of grinding it out of existence. The wolf's ears flick. It steps closer and, once again, presses its forehead briefly against your chest, right where the folded note lies under your jacket. Heat moves through you from that point outward, ridiculous under all this cold, as if someone lit a match behind your ribs and it caught on the edges of your heart. Then it steps back, one pace. Two, you feel the goodbye before you understand it. Are you leaving? You ask, even though you know the answer. It turns its head toward the mountain, toward a ridge where the snow lies unbroken, where human tracks don't mar the surface. The world up here belongs to it, not to you. You've had your guided tour. It's time for you to go home. You let the space grow. 10 meters, 20. The wolf pauses once more at the edge of a dip in the glacier, glances over its shoulder. Just a flick, a flash of yellow catching the moonlight. Then it trots away, body melting into the landscape, shake dissolving until you're not sure whether you're looking at an animal or the wind's trick on the snow. Then you're not looking at it at all. You're alone on the glacier. For the first time in your life, the loneliness doesn't feel like an absence. It feels like room. Room for grief, for anger, for gratitude, for something new. You sink down onto the snow, careful but not precious. Your pack presses into your spine. Your legs sprawl. You tilt your head back and stare at the sky. You think of all the years you spent chasing edges. Of all the nights you woke with a tightness in your chest and no word for it. Of all the times you felt pulled toward cold, wild places without understanding why. You weren't just running away. You were running toward this. Toward the moment where you could stand on the ice that tried to erase you and tell it calmly, you failed. I remember now. Wind whispers over the glacier surface, kicking up plumes of powder. The torn opening below you glows faintly, a pale wound in the white. You take the note out one more time. Your father's words are messier in the dim light, lines of ink rising and falling with your breathing. You run your thumb over the last sentence until you can feel the groove the pen left in the paper. You get to choose where your story goes after this. You fold the paper and press it back to your chest. I will, you say into the night. I promise. A distant thrum reaches your ears. It's faint at first, low, intermittent, easy to dismiss as part of the glacier's own music. Then it strengthens, a steady mechanical rhythm cutting through the wind. Rotors! You squint toward the valley. A small set of lights rises above the far ridge, white and red, blinking in turn. The sound builds as the helicopter climbs, nose tilting toward your position. They're coming. Rescue, questions, reports, lawyers and directors and people who will want to turn your experience into bullet points and risk assessments and, if they can manage it, patents. You exhale. You're not the silent subject they thought they could use anymore. You're the witness. And when they land, when they open the door and shout over the rotors asking what happened, where you've been, why the glacier is carved open and their tidy maps are lies, you'll have an answer. You'll tell them about Ward, about the station, about what happens when you treat trauma as a tool. You'll tell them about your father, about the note he left, about the glacier that remembers. The helicopter banks toward you, lights cutting across the ice. You push yourself to your feet, snow sliding off your pants. Your legs wobble and then hold. You lift one arm, waving, a small human figure on a vast white plain. As the helicopter descends, wind whipping your coat around you, you glance back one last time at the place where the wolf disappeared. There's nothing there now but untouched snow and the silent mountain. You smile anyway. See you, you say under your breath. Up here, or somewhere higher. The chopper skids touch the glacier. The door slides open. Hands reach out. You step forward. You step forward! The world feels too loud when they pull you into the helicopter. Hands grip your forearms, haul you inside, slam the door against the wind. The rotors churn the air into a frenzy, snow whipping into white static outside the window. Someone presses a headset against your ears. Voices flood in, rapid, clipped, frantic. Harlan, can you hear me? Jesus, you're hypothermic. Wrap this around him. Vitals are unstable. Get the blankets. You nod because nodding is easier than talking. Their hands are warm. The cabin air is warm. The world is suddenly too warm. It takes a full minute before you realize you're shaking, not from cold anymore, but because your body is finally catching up to everything your mind has endured. Someone buckles a strap across your chest. Another shines a tiny flashlight into your eyes. Someone else asks, "Were you alone out there?" The question hits harder than it should. You hesitate. Alone? No, not truly. But the wolf is already gone, absorbed back into the world that shaped it. Yes, you say quietly. I was alone. It's both a lie and the truest thing you've said in years. The helicopter rises. The glacier falls away beneath you, torn, splintered, glowing silver under the moon. From this height, the breach you crawled out of is a pale wound pulsing with faint light. Snow pours over its edges like sand falling into an hourglass. It's already healing. You watch it shrink as altitude climbs until it becomes just another shadow on the white. In a day or two, it will vanish completely. The glacier remembers, but it also forgets. You lean your head back against the seat, eyes blurring. Your father's note weighs against your chest. Ward's tape echoes in your skull. The thermos you left in your father's hands glints behind your eyelids. The wolf's forehead against your heart still radiates a warmth that the helicopter's heater cannot match. You survived, because people did. Don't let them turn what hurt you into a tool. You close your eyes. For the first time since childhood, the darkness behind them isn't empty. It's full of mountains. The world tries, of course. The company sends representatives. The government sends forms. The lab sends questions. Lawyers send warnings. Your report is thorough. Your evidence undeniable. Ward's notes devastating. The project collapses under its own guilt. The valley is locked down. Pending review. The archive erased from official maps. Your father's name restored in the only way that matters, truth. People think closure is a single door closing. They don't understand. Closure is the space that slowly opens afterward. You hike, not far, not dangerous, not in search of anything except air and silence. The snow at the ridge crunches under your boots in a soft, steady rhythm. Pine shadows stretch long across the trail. The sun bleeds orange through the trees, warm despite the cold. Your breath plumes gently. You sit on an outcrop overlooking the valley, much lower than the glacier but high enough that the wind carries a familiar scent. Cold stone, old snow, something like memory shifting beneath the surface. You take out your father's note, folded and refolded now, edges softened by time and handling. You read the last line again. You get to choose where your story goes after this. You fold it carefully. When you lift your head, you're not surprised. The wolf stands at the tree line, far away, still, watching. You don't move, neither does it. The wind curls between you, carrying a thread of recognition that hums deep under your ribs. Not ownership, not companionship, something quieter, a shared truth. You both live through the mountain, you both carry its memory. A long moment stretches. Then the wolf turns. It disappears into the trees, not abruptly, just naturally, as though it was always part of them. You watch the space where it vanished until the light fades. Eventually, you stand. You start the walk back toward the world you chose. This time, you don't feel the pull of unfinished stories tugging at your back. You feel something else, a steady, quiet warmth, not closure, continuance.